30 seconds, if you were really working towards the ult charge, he could have had one. I mean, like he had off the very, very first offense that they had, or at least much closer. He could have used his EMP towards that last fight if he had been on it from the start, whereas he died before he got to use it. So just little things like that made a difference.
And I hate to say it, but in the waning seconds of that final push there for Complexity, Harblu did get the elevation. He got one pull, but after that, just no dice. Fired off a couple of rounds at Lucio, didn't connect on any of them, ended up pulling Reinhardt with nothing left in the chamber, and that's just not an effect you want from Ro8 at that point in time. He needs to be a much bigger presence as one of the DPS leaders in the game right now. He's the one you're looking for to get some of those picks, and Lucio should have gone down as well, but with the sound barrier that came out reflexively in that situation, Faze just in general putting on a better defense than Complexity was mounting at all, and Complexity still running some of those experimental lineups with only one support and whatnot, and it seems to be biting them from now and again.
And we'll take another look at the winning moments there from Faze. Too easy getting a whole hog and able just to push all of Complexity back. Going to give them the win here.
Yeah, that the whole hog paid dividends, I should say, for them, and he was quite a presence towards, well, honestly, on a lot of stages of this map, whether it be offense or defense. He really came up big for Faze, and I think they'll be looking to him again going into the third map, whatever it is that Complexity wants to go to. For them, I would imagine probably King's Row, if I had to guess, now that it is Complexity's pick. But we'll see what happens with that. But Complexity, they're still in a good spot. I think they can take this. Faze, though, overall great game on Gibraltar.
Let you know you are right. It will be King's Row. Will be map number 3. And I just want to point out, you glossed over it there for a second. We saw an actual Bastion pick in the Overwatch Winter Premiere. It was only like 15 seconds long.
Yeah.
But he was legitimately playing that. It was a legitimate thing.
It's usually about how long Bastion lasts for one reason or another. Either he's just broken out there in the last few seconds as a defensive tactic, or you're trying to use him honestly, and he lasts about 15 seconds anyways. There's only a few cases where that hasn't been true. We could reach all the way back to the World Cup with Arhan and his Bastion that I'd never want to experience firsthand in my life. But either way, yeah, rolling into the third map. Every time you pick a map, it's King's Row, and then you get it.
I just, I know people love the King's Row.
There you go.
I mean, for Complexity though, King's Row is like it's the map that they've had success on recently. I mean, they beat Envious there at MLG, like I was saying yesterday. So, I mean, why not pick it for them? That's what they feel good on, I think, and. I think this will be a good test for them. I feel confident that they can take King's Row.
And we haven't seen the Mei combo yet out of Complexity, and that's something we saw them have so much success with over the qualifiers. And in this instance, now's the time to break it out again if they're still comfortable on it. Or perhaps, I'd love to ask them some questions and find out exactly. Maybe it's Faze in particular they're not comfortable running it against, but if they're going to run it, you'd think King's Row on the first point. That's what they've done for, well, a number of matches so far.
Absolutely so. Both teams coming off of a win. We'll get into game number 3, King's Row, where it all comes down to. Take it away, guys.
All right, well, King's Row, game number 3 between Faze and Complexity, our second match of the day here in the Overwatch Winter Premiere group stages. And it will be Complexity starting off on the offensive side. And Faze will try their hand at the defense, of course, expecting to see that the Sombra, that's what it's called, coming out from Complexity, if I had to take a guess. And, well, the Fighters of the Storm as well. My favorite game. But as far as defense goes, from Faze, are they actually doing Sombra defense? That can't be a thing for them.
I wouldn't think so, but I mean, it's a character you can switch out relatively quickly.
Yeah.
It'd be very interesting if it happened, especially running one support to exchange out for Sombra.
Oh my god, he is doing it.
Guess there's a health pack they really want, and they think they can. The health pack alone can supplement that. Certainly hacking this one is going to be a problem. That's a pretty critical health pack for the first part, so if they could take that away, it's certainly not adding the healing to FaZe Clan, but it's taking away from Complexity, which they need to run their Sombra.
Yeah.
Oh, they just take it right off.
They want to switch.
Well, plan's over. Couldn't generate it. Might as well give it up.
Okay. All right. Well,
that's a quick change.
Yeah, but smart on Complexity to realize that.
Yeah.
That's something that they need to do. They just need to make the change. And actually, Forsaken
is going to
go back.
This is mind games, man.
Yeah, really. The big mind
Giving
games.
up one player for so long, though, that can't be worth it.
Wow, that is, I know. I mean, Forsaken's going to be able to get back pretty quick, but not counting the ult that he wasn't building in the middle of this. Too easy starts it off, though, to get Shake, and mind games early from these guys. But Faze already with the one-player advantage on this fight, and they're just hooking Shadowburn left and right here. But it is going to be a reset for both sides, and Torque did make a switch over to Tracer now, if you didn't catch that. So I've seen him do some pretty nasty things on Tracer. Keep an eye.
Faze with an Earth Shatter and a Nano Boost should be able to defend the first assault here from Complexity. Complexity not looking at any ultimates online at the moment, but very, very close to a Nano Boost.
And they start to re-engage here, both sides, and it'll be too easy trying to come through the hotel. Him and Hardblue are facing each other down. No one going for the hook yet. Going for it with just the right amount of health. Normally, the Roadhog who hooks first ends up losing the battle, but in that case, he got Hardblue just low enough that he could finish him in one shot off the hook. So that'll be Faze holding on yet again. And they have 3 ults now, almost 4 to work with on their side. Torque back to Sombra.
Torque back to Sombra, indeed. That is, that's a questionable thing. But here we go, a Graviton landing here in the middle of Complexity. That's just gonna shut him down and send him right back to spawn. Hardblue trying to get a pick on Zombs, but it's gonna fail. Hardblue dancing away to try and reunite with his team. If he gets staggered, that's gonna be a problem with how little time there is left. Complexity getting very close to having a full 6 ultimates online. Torque able to get it fast enough, so he's gonna make up some of that difference he's had from not having it for so long, but they're really going to have to make it work now if they want to keep Faze from just having a mountain of time to work with.
6 ultimates for Complexity. Here it is, EMP, Sound Barrier, Self-Destruct for Nicholas. He finds 4 in total, and that'll rip it wide open for Complexity. Team wipe, and they will be able to cap this point here, I'd imagine, and you can take a second look at this one right
there
here.
It is.
EMP,
we were talking about that
yesterday.
We were talking about that yesterday. EMP leading into an Earth Shatter with a self-destruct, following it all up. The self-destruct was released at just the right time to make that whole combination work, and Complexity rounding out that struggle they faced yesterday when they had a mountain of time on the first point against Kungarna and couldn't assemble that, but it certainly paid out this time. And FaZe Clan going to try and play up even more forward to take time away from the streets phase.
And Shadowburn has made a switch to Genji now. They did get Nicholas quite late as he was out of his suit, but I'd imagine he'll be back in the fight here in just a second. Shadowburn's kind of leading the charge here, playing very aggressive forward. And they're just going to reset. Torque still rocking that Sombra for now. Fact Fiction getting pulled in right there at the big hook out of Hardblue, and he will get taken down. That'll certainly give Complexity an opportunity to move forward. Here comes the Nano Boost onto JKW as he swings away at Too Easy. He's quite hurt. He's going to be able to pick up that health pack inside of there, though, and actually JKW getting outplayed a bit, outgamed, and FaZe are still holding on despite going down.
The way that Shadowburn just drops in right behind one of his teammates, breaks out Reflect at the right time, defending his teammate and doing damage back is such a surprise every time it happens. He's not necessarily using it reflexively to defend himself in those circumstances, so it's not as predictable. You can fire off a Helix or something like that, and next thing you know, it's coming right back, and where did Shadowburn come from? He dashed just to catch it. Right now, FaZe Clan holding on to 5 ultimates and Complexity with just 1. FaZe Clan giving up a huge portion of the streets phase, even though they do have a lot of those ultimates online. And it looks like they're just picking their moment, and here it comes, Nano Blade.
A Nano Blade is out from Shadowburn. 2 so far for him, hunting down those supports in the backline. That's beautiful. And he came right back in the right click to finish off Nicholas. See you later.
I believe that's called a coup de grace.
Is that what it is, man?
That's a finishing headshot, yeah.
Yeah, he certainly got that and some with his whole Nano Blade. I mean, FaZe played that well. They knew they had a long walk for their players back to the point. Take a second look at this one, but they had a long walk back. They had a lot of ultimates, and once they did get all 6 of them to the streets, then they went in for that Nano Blade that you just saw right there. But they're going to continue to battle it out here. There's a Graviton, and getting melted are a few players on the FaZe side as Complexity are really rolling right here. Big biotic grenades on lands on a lot of people, excuse me. But there is no one from Faze to really help out here. Blue is desperately trying to take a breather, but
I've never microwaved bacon, but that's apparently what happens.
I bet it was pretty tasty, though, I'll tell you. But
oh man, FaZe Clan holding on to an Earth Shatter and a Sound Barrier. Meanwhile, Complexity, just a Sound Barrier on their side, but they've taken up most of the distance in the streets phase. They're moments away from capping it as long as they can press FaZe Clan back, but FaZe Clan isn't going to have it. They're looking for that moment to Earth Shatter, and here comes Shadowburn, I guess, with another Dragon Blade.
Fact Fiction's got that Earth Shatter.
He went down.
Oh no, he thought that shield was going to drop. Shadowburn did go down. That's very, very unfortunate. Fact Fiction getting pulled in. He was finished by Torque. And there's going to be a nano boost coming out from Raucus as well to send FaZe forward as they use the Graviton. Zoms does too easy. He's able to get a couple for himself. And FaZe solidifying their hold right here as Complexity can no longer find the ground. There's not enough time for any of the Complexity players to get back. There's no one to stop it. Actually, there might be. Oh no, JKW was hiding in the alley. He was going to go for the charge onto the card, but FaZe had a keen eye to that one, and they stopped Complexity in the streets. Not at all what I was expecting.
Oh, most of that stop came out on the first point. So much time in Ultimate Generation leaning into FaZe's favor after how long they delayed that using their own Sombra to counter Torque and his preferred patterns. We spoke about that a little bit before the show started. He does tend to have some kind of rituals, some very strong habits. Not that there's a better health pack to hack in that circumstance, but you start to be able to counter those things relatively easily by studying them so much. FaZe willing to take such a huge risk, though, in order to pull that off. And fortunately for them, it worked. Up until the point where Complexity was able to get Sombra back on the field, and then they ended that first point hold relatively quickly. But like you said, holding on the streets phase, not something you see all that often.
Yeah, not often at all. And there was a couple of missed opportunities from Complexity. I think at one time, one of the first fights in the streets phase, I think they had a pretty big ult advantage going into the fight, and they didn't really win it. I mean, they ended up getting to move the card a bit because they did get some kills, and then FaZe had such a long walk back that it forced FaZe to back up a little bit, so they got some ground Complexity, but I feel as though they could have gotten it further if they would have managed the big ultimate advantage that they had just a little bit better, but still, Complexity can do this, but I really think this is FaZe's game to win at this point, really, because they don't have to push it all that far.
Yeah. Now, touching back a little bit on it, you don't always see teams play so far forward in the streets phase in that circumstance. A couple different variables there where they just spawned, along with the ultimate economy. If the ultimate economy is hard in one way or the other, then if it's on your team, you can guarantee you can hold there for quite a while. And if it's not on your team, you can virtually guarantee you get the offense to burn a few of theirs, and that can matter. But here we go. FaZe starting to put together their assault here on the first point. Complexity broke back out May. This is going to be a lot harder for FaZe than it's been so far.
Here we go. The classic Nicholas on May, I should say. Here's Complexity, likes to do a lot. Haven't really done it in this match so far. They've traded one for one. Nicholas is still alive in there. Zoms is just melting people left and right. And Shadowburn is on Genji. Finished off JKW, and FaZe are finding ground on this point. Shadowburn has found two for himself, and FaZe are just rolling all over Complexity on this point, and they take it swiftly, and things are not looking good for Complexity at all right now.
Well, perhaps May was not the answer I've been hyping it to be, but FaZe, with almost a nano boost and Earth Shatter on their side, looking to put together a nano blade inevitably at some point. Zoms might be able to pair that with his own Graviton, but Complexity playing really far forward, trying to burn some of this time out of FaZe. They do have to play as far forward as they can. They can't back up and look for a better choke point, because then they're just risking 5 minutes on a single point hold. They're going to play as far forward as they can for as long as possible. And now here we go, Shadowburn just about ready for his Nano Blade. And there it goes.
Yes, here he comes. Shadowburn and Zoms have already found one apiece. Shadowburn with 2 for himself. Make that 3 for Shadowburn. And now Complexity is going to have maybe one last shot at really holding this down. And it's going to be tough. Complexity, they will have 3 ults, almost 4. Actually, they could come up with all 6 pretty quick. FaZe with not really many themselves, but they got one last shot at this. Complexity, they got to make it happen right here.
Yeah, but with a Graviton on the side of FaZe Clan, if that lands in the right place at the right time, it could be all they need in order to push this forward. A self-destruct coming out of the side of Complexity, trying to delay this a little bit.
Yes.
And then an Earth Shatter. It's going to land Factor Fiction flat on his back as he's defending from JKW, who wants none of this other Reinhardt. There can be only one.
There can be only one, and Torque also had himself a beautifully placed self-destruct up against a wall. We saw someone do that yesterday, where pretty much the exact same spot too, on the defensive side, throw it in, hit off of some of those buildings and land right into the back line. Nothing that they can do about it if the Reinhardt isn't there. There's nowhere to hide for them. So Complexity holding on for now, but they are going to have to hold this for still 3 minutes and 45 seconds. And Hardblue has a Graviton, they have a Blizzard, Earth Shatter as well. That could be enough for Complexity to take it. Only Sound Barrier. Oh, look at this. Here we go. There's going to be that Graviton out.
Oh, that
and
Blizzard,
the
though.
Blizzard. There's a lot of CC landing on these guys right now. Complexity should win this fight as well. Yes, they used 2 ultimates. Actually, I think they used all 3 for that. Man, I don't know if they needed all 3 to accomplish
JKW
that.
throwing down the Earth Shatter as well. I think that was the one we probably didn't need to spend. The Graviton to the Blizzard should have been enough to shut all of that down on its own, but a little bit of an odd angle there. So FaZe Clan holding on to a nano boost of their own, getting close to a nano blade. Forsaken with a Sound Barrier, Factor Fiction with an Earth Shatter, and pushing into what's left of Complexity's ultimate economy. FaZe Clan with 2 minutes and 50 seconds. They really should take this.
Oh, they should, unless they blow it. I mean, they got, yeah, all too easy though. Goes down to Torque self-destruct. So I mean, that's a pretty big start for him right there. That might just be what Complexity needed, but still, FaZe has got a lot of ultimates here, and I think they're just going to wait it out. Oh, maybe not. No, Raucus actually uses the nano boost. But can they find the value out of it? That's the question. Zombs takes down Shake, and they are still not gaining all that much ground at the moment. There is going to be a Graviton used on the side of FaZe, getting a lot of bodies caught up inside of it. Too easy, takes down JKW. In fact, Fiction should be finished off here. Yes, Shadowburn used his Dragon Blade, and he's slicing and dicing. Got Nicholas. Zombs finds 2 for himself. This might be it. FaZe might be sending Complexity out of this match. I don't know if anyone from Complexity can even get back in time, to be honest. Shake goes down. They're playing very far forward FaZe. That's beautiful from them, and here comes a whole hog from Too Easy, keeping them out. That is all FaZe right there, taking the series against Complexity on Kings Row even. For the 3rd and final map. Not what I was expecting.
No, out of the entire map pool, Complexity takes the control point and then loses the other 2 maps. Not what I expected at all.
Not in any way, shape, or form. FaZe comes out strong in games 2 and 3 to take this one, holding Complexity to just 1 point. That's the lowest score we've seen on Kings Row to date.
Yeah, and it's amazing that they did it to Complexity, that FaZe did it to Complexity, because I mean that's a map that Complexity's pretty strong on. I mean, like I said, beating Envious on it at LAN too, and FaZe has been a team that hasn't been looking all that great in their online matches, but today really showed up and took it to Complexity, who Complexity looked great off the start too. I mean, you know, you go to the first map and they were killing it, and then it just at one point just totally swung in the other direction. FaZe really found their rhythm.
Absolutely. One of the things about FaZe is Shadowburn. We love to talk about his great Genji player, and he gave us a great exhibition of that right here in their win over Complexity.
Yeah, time and time again, Shadowburn was making plays, and it's surprising too, because a lot of times on Kings Row, specifically in the Streets phase, it's not the best of maps to play Genji on, but FaZe was making it work. Shadowburn was making it work, and you know, it paid off.
If there are maps that aren't good to play Genji on, somebody needs to tell Shadowburn that, because he seems to make it work on a lot of situations you don't think he should.
Yeah, that one specifically. I mean, it's generally a lot of teams won't run it there, but he said Shadowburn, he made it work there. I don't know if that was any of the fault of Complexity. I still think there was a few times where they didn't manage ults right, but you know, in the end, FaZe took it. Shadowburn, big part of that.
It just looked a little disjointed. I mean, Complexity, what we saw out of them, aside from the first day in qualifiers, they seemed a lot more cohesive, a lot more synergistic. And then yesterday and today, it just seems like occasionally there's something off. Like they start out pretty well, and then somewhere in the later games, they falter a little bit. Yesterday, they were able to bring it back, but today, they weren't able to pick themselves back up, and FaZe just took it home.
Well, my question is the Sombra mind game at the beginning. You're talking about like being a bit off. How does something like that throw you off when it's like you have to have this other team counter picking you in this way that they're not even really trying to play Sombra. They're just trying to make you not play Sombra. You know, or like what is going on there? Walk us through that.
I mean, that's a first that I've seen someone actually do that to Complexity before. I haven't seen anyone try and do that to make them not play Sombra. So the thought is there, I guess. I mean, get him off of Sombra. And the thing is, for Complexity, they have other strategies that they can go to, like putting Torque on Tracer or something. It's not really harm done to them, I guess. Yeah, exactly, and it's worked great for them. So it's not necessarily harm done to Complexity. It's like, oh, whatever. Like, okay, I'll go back and play Tracer.
Yeah.
But eventually, the thing was, then they wanted to make the switch back, and then they'd already used up a lot of time, Complexity, at that point when they tried going back to Sombra then, and Tracer wasn't working all that good. It was just a lot of change-ups, and you know, in the end, I don't know if it was solely the mind games of playing Sombra, Forsaken on Sombra at the start that paid off for FaZe there, but it